All right, and welcome back. Why do I look so low? But
Hey,
welcome
stand up
back
a little
again
bit,
to the
loosen up.
Pies. Welcome back again to the Paisan Sports podcast. This is actually our 50th episode, our first milestone episode, unless you want to count 25 as a milestone. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Who cares? Do what you want. But this is our 50th episode. So glad to be here. Dante DePlacido, joined by Zach Deal.
Yes, sir. How we doing, Dante?
Not bad. Not bad. How about you?
I'm pretty good. 50th episode. It's crazy that we've been doing it for this long, but let's keep it going.
Forgot to mention this episode is sponsored by Aquapana. No, it's not. We don't have a sponsorship, but it'd be cool if we did.
We'll have one soon.
Yep. Yeah, so let's get right into it. Start off with some Phillies talk. The main thing I want to talk about is the rumor mill lately. A lot of talk going on about the Phillies, not the Eagles, the Phillies possibly trading for Luis Robert Jr. I want to hear your thoughts on it and also who you would be willing to give up for him.
Um, I think the rumors are definitely warranted. I mean, the Chicago White Sox are one of the worst teams in the entire MLB, even though I was betting against them this weekend and they ended up beating the Red Sox numerous times. But besides that, I think it's very viable. I think that's actually something that they could add to this team, even though they're getting contributions from all over from different guys stepping up, even in the outfield with a guy like David Dahl, who's come up and hit 2 home runs and like 8 at bats. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting though, because apparently at the end of this week, there's a lot of traction towards Trey Turner and Brandon Marsh possibly both returning this week. So we'll see how everything fizzles out. They're going to have to send somebody back down. It's probably going to be David Dahl, but I don't think he has any options. So Cody Clemens is coming back from injury as well. So they might move him down. Before I get to Luis Robert, a lot of people are saying that Edmundo Sosa was kind of like a flash in the pan and that he wasn't going to be hitting this well for the entire remainder of the season. But for somebody that's played very limited outfield, I kind of am interested to see if he could play left field when Trey Turner comes back, because I can't see them taking this dude out of the lineup right now. It doesn't look like a flash in
I
the pan at
don't,
all. It's like
I
he just
don't
looks like
think
an entirely different player.
I don't think they need to. I mean, like I don't think taking Emundo Sosa out of the lineup. I don't think would be fully taking him out of the lineup, if that makes sense. Like Edmundo Sosa, he's still gonna get a good number of starts because of all the positions he can play. You can put him at short, you can put him at third, you can put him at second. There's still so many starts to be made for Edmundo Sosa. Even after,
Especially at third base. I mean, obviously, you don't want to take out one of the hot bats in Alec Bohm, but he's kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's still batting around 300 and tops in the league in RBIs. Not the top leader, but top 5 in the league in RBIs. But um, for Alec Bohm, I feel like defensively, you can definitely get some reps in for Edmundo Sosa over Alec Bohm, because Alec Bohm's kind of rough. Like if Kyle Schwarber wasn't the DH on this team, I could easily see Alec Bohm being the DH.
yeah, definitely. I can definitely agree there. Unfortunately, Kyle Schwarber is so unplayable in the outfield. You kind of are forced to use that DH spot for him. The one possibility the Phillies could do, which I highly doubt they'll actually do, but it is a bit of a possibility, is you could move Bohm over to first, put Edmundo Sosa at third, and put Harper back in the outfield. I highly doubt they'll do that. They really like
It's
him.
just I feel like there's like where they just got rid of Reese, you know what I mean, and just that type of situation. I just don't think that Harper will go back to the outfield, you know what I mean. So that's the situation that they're in. Bryce Harper's like committed to playing first base, and apparently he's going to be a lot healthier in doing that. So um, I really don't see Bryce Harper going back to the outfield, as much as it does make sense because he has played outfield and he played it at a high level as well defensively. All right, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties here with Dante. Hold on one second. Try and bring him back on. But yeah, we're just talking about maybe moving Bryce back to the outfield and what the defensive alignment for the Phillies could be in moving guys all back around. But Luis Robert is definitely somebody that I'm interested in the Phillies trading for. If there's been rumors about Kyle Tucker possibly being the guy that the Phillies could target, but I just don't see the Astros giving up on Kyle Tucker while he's in his prime. And you also have a team that fields Jordan Alvarez. It makes more sense if the Astros are going to give up on somebody and give somebody up. It would be like a Jose Altuve, but I just don't even think they want to do that. And I think they still think they can turn it around for the rest of the season and make something happen. So the Kyle Tucker rumors, I'll definitely put a little bit of ice on them because I just don't believe that that's something that the Astros would even think about doing at the current moment. But like I said, the Chicago White Sox, one of the worst records in the league. How they don't really have too many foundational players. They could definitely use prospects. And there's Dante. Just talking about Luis Robert.
Difficulties.
Have you heard the rumors about Kyle Tucker possibly being traded to the Phillies? I just don't.
I did hear. Yeah, I heard the three names I've heard the most are Luis Robert Jr., who I've heard the most by far. I've heard Kyle Tucker and that relief pitcher from the Athletics, Mason Miller. Yeah, yeah, he's really good. But I mean, this bullpen has been pitching so well that
except for when you finally get a good start from Walker in the London series
yeah,
on Sunday, and then they bring Gregory Soto in, who's
that
somebody
was such a mistake.
Yeah. Why
I
you talking
mean,
about just bringing him in general, or just bringing him in that current time in the game?
I mean, yeah, bringing him in that time in the game. I mean, yeah, bringing Gregory Soto in a different spot, not a situation where there's two runners on base and you're trying to protect the lead. Don't bring in Gregory Soto to get yourself out of a jam. And they even ended up, then putting in Matt Strom to finish the job.
Do you think
Soto
Matt Strom should have came in
That's
beforehand,
what
or
I
do you
was
think they
getting
should?
to. That's what I was getting to. Is they should have just went right to Matt Strom instead of putting in Soto first. I think that was a big mistake. I hate to say it because I'm such a huge fan of Rob Thompson, but that was really on him in that situation.
But the thing is, even in that game, what was promising was that the Phillies still gave themselves a chance at the end of the game
Yeah,
to tie that game up. David Dahl hit that home run after they blew the 3-0 lead, and then he made it a 4-3 game, and then the Mets come back and make it a 6-4 game. But in the ninth inning, when they're down and out, you know what I mean? It looks like they don't have a chance. I think their live money line was like plus 680, and they end up with the bases loaded. And I actually thought Castellanos was going to come through. First off, I thought Bryce was going to be able to come through, and he had a really nice hit. I thought they should
if he would have just gotten under that ball, that would have walked us off. I
Did
mean, he hit it
did
so
Alec
well.
Boehm end up getting hit by a pitch after that? Was that sequence?
He either got hit by a pitch or he got walked, and that drew him a
Because
run. I
I'm
think he
trying
got
to
hit.
figure back to Christian Pache was on third base and he could have went home, and it was a throw to the out. It was a ball hit to the outfield and he could have went home, but he kind of held up and they
Yeah,
ended up.
and then Bohm got hit by a pitch, and
Yeah.
Pache scored. Um, but yeah, I mean Harper. I mean he hit that ball really really well. If he would have gotten underneath of it a bit, he would have sent it into the seats for a walk off. Castellanos on that ball hit right in front of home plate. If that would have been hit a foot further,
Yeah,
Stubbs would have
watching the
scored
game
to
thinking the
tie
same
the
thing.
game if he
It was
would have
good
hit
to see the bats come
further.
alive in the London series though, because they had what 7 total runs, I think it was in the Milwaukee series earlier in the week, and they kind of were just winning off of pitching,
Yeah.
and that just shows how.
Well, but it's also probably. I mean, they probably use juiced balls for that series, like they always do with big series like that or big games, like like the what was it? The cornfield games, the
Oh
Field
my
of
god,
Dreams.
that was one of the best games though. Was it the Chicago White Sox and
It
who
was
was
the
it?
first. They did two of them. The first one they used juiced balls for, and it was just a home run derby. So they might use juiced balls for the London series. They do like to do that. But I mean, it was a great, entertaining series either way. And if you're a fan in London who's new to baseball and you decide to go to that game that the Phillies end up losing, you watch that game, and that might really pique your interest in baseball. So I mean, it's a long
I
season.
just
100.
saw Patty the Batty. You probably know. I know you're not the biggest UFC guy, but
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't like that guy.
He was rocking a Phillies uniform this weekend, a jersey, and he
I
was
still don't
taking a
like
picture
him.
with Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Shane Victorino, all the guys out there. So there was a great turnout for London too with the Phillies and the fans. I mean, they travel
Oh
Philadelphia,
yeah, it
not
was
just
way
Wilson.
more Philly fans than Mets fans. And shout out to Rob Thompson going to Passyunk Ave, the Philly bar in London, and grabbing drinks with Phillies fans for 2 hours. A couple nights before. Um,
Those are
but
memories that last a lifetime. You know what I mean? That's just something that's an iconic moment. You know,
yeah,
just being able to have a beer with the manager of your favorite team. You know, that's stuff that you tell your grandkids about. So. Um, But the Phillies, I mean, there's not too much to complain. I really wanted to come through that London series without the 20th loss of the season and still be in the teens with losses. But hey,
yeah.
I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, on Sunday, they still gave themselves a chance at the end of the game.
and
And just
and
kind
the
of
Braves lost on Sunday as well.
the
So no
Braves,
harm
I
to
think,
them.
got swept by the Nationals this weekend, didn't they?
I think they won the first game because the series started on Thursday. So I think
Oh,
they
what was
won.
it? They lost 3 out of 4 because I know they lost
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and
They
Sunday.
don't look good right now. They just straight up do not look good at the moment. We're 9 games ahead of them. But anyway, just to circle back real quick to the trade rumors, because I did want to discuss, who we could possibly trade to bring in Luis Robert Jr. Most of the trade packages I've seen mainly feature Justin Crawford and Mick Abel. But someone the other day, were you shaking your head at?
I
Not a fan of
don't
that?
want them to trade Justin Crawford.
Well, what I was about to get to is I saw somebody recently propose instead of trading Justin Crawford, trading Johan Rojas, which I love Rojas, but I would so much rather do that because I think Justin Crawford has a ton more upside than Johan Rojas does. You won't need Johan Rojas if you bring in Luis Robert Jr. So you
I think if
upgrade.
they brought in Luis Robert Jr. and Johan Rojas wasn't involved in the package, I think he would still probably get demoted, DFA'd. Because what purpose of having him on the roster? It's not like you're going to have him on the bench as a
I
bat.
would think they would put him back in AAA, not DFA him. He's
Yeah.
still very young. But yeah, I mean, I think it would make a lot more
Well,
sense to
back in
get them
AAA,
Johan
didn't he
Rojas.
originally skipped AAA? That was the whole thing about him. He went from AA to the
Yeah,
major.
yeah. I think so did Kirkring, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be completely
He's been pitching really well
with the
recently.
exception of this year, because I think then he started this year in AAA, but I think last year he went from AA to the minors. He's been pitching phenomenal. But yeah, so I think we're both in agreement then. We'd rather give up Mick Abel and Johan Rojas than Justin Crawford and Mick Abel.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm
Yeah.
definitely I like the prospects of at least having something in your farm system that's really, valuable. And Johan Rojas, I kind of feel like his development, I'm never gonna really think of him as somebody that's gonna turn into this phenomenal hitter. He's not a bad baseball player by any means, but you know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta give up something like Logan O'Hoppe, you know what I mean, and get something back in return. And look how that
Yeah.
trade turned out. So
Yeah, and you know what? Logan Ohape, I think I saw him recently. He hit that home run that almost got robbed, but then it didn't, right? I don't know if
yeah,
you saw that
you know how
highlight.
bad that beat me? That was yesterday versus the Astros. You know how bad that beat me? That was my last leg of my parlay was the Astros. They were going into the 7th inning with a 7-4 lead.
Oh man, yeah, that stinks. But yeah, so Rojas and Robert Jr., that would be a phenomenal trade. And then the other thing I want to mention is if you get Luis Robert Jr., you look at, and everyone's now healthy. You look at that starting lineup. There's not a single weak spot. Your worst hitter is Nick Castellanos. For Nick Castellanos to be the worst hitter in a lineup, that's pretty damn good.
He's been
Because
playing well recently, though. I mean, outside
but that's
everybody
what I
remembers
mean.
the
I'm
London
not saying
series.
he's a bad. I'm not even saying he's a bad hitter. I'm just saying he would be the worst out of the 9, right? But he would still be, a top hitter on a lot of teams. But I mean, you would look at the starting lineup if they trade for Luis Robert Jr. and everyone's now healthy. Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, Luis Robert Jr., Brandon Marsh, Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto.
Well, I mean, I
That's
don't
your
know if
9.
Brandon Marsh has started off the season really hot and he kind of tailed off a little bit, but he is still improving as a hitter.
I
But
would still take him over Costi in terms of hitting.
I don't know. Just the one thing I was going to say though is him versus lefties is just like
Yeah,
outrageous.
that's a good point. So Brandon Marsh is the worst hitter in your lineup, right? I mean, for Brandon Marsh to be the worst hitter in your lineup, that's a pretty damn good lineup. It would be scary hours. Plus, it would be that insane starting lineup plus the amazing starting pitching that the Phillies have.
Well, I
Which we
think
will see
also
more of
something
tomorrow night. Zach Wheeler's on the mound in Boston. I'm very excited. Very excited for that.
I'm always excited for a Zach Wheeler start,
I'm
but
always excited for a game in Boston.
it sucks because I just want to wind down on Sundays and just relax and watch a nice baseball game, my favorite team and the Phillies. And the way that it always lines up is Taijuan Walker always pitching on a Sunday. So that always just ruins it. But the thing about Luis Robert that I think is important is that he actually adds more pop to the lineup too. Is I feel like they're so reliant on Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper to hit home runs that at times when they don't get home runs from them, their offense gets a little shaky, and no one else really provides like consistent power behind the plate. Even though Castellanos has hit 5 home runs in 14 games, but outside of that, Castellanos is probably their 3rd best power hitter, and I think Luis Robert could go fill that void of the lack of offense being produced by the outfield and adding more pop.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 38 home runs last year, 4 home runs in the 12 games he played this year, which is a home run every 3 games, a home run a series, if you want to look at it that way. So and he's hit for high average in the past as well. So
and one of those games out of the 12 games that he played, he had a 2 home run game as well too, and a loss, a 7-6 extra innings loss. So
the craziest part to me is last year he hit 38 home runs, and I just want to check his RBI total again because it was absurdly low. Thanks to being on the Chicago White Sox and not having many guys to drive
I feel
in.
that about Kyle Schwarber too. He had the 47 home run season and it was like 94 RBI. It's like you got to have at least like
but listen, this is way more absurd. And plus, Schwarber's the leadoff hitter.
That's how Mike Trout would do too. Like Mike Trout in the beginning of the season, he was cranking home runs left and right, and he still barely had like 20 RBIs.
Yeah, but anyway, so Luis Robert Jr. last season, 38 home runs, 80 RBIs. That is insane. That just shows how bad the Chicago White Sox are. But yeah, in 2021, although he only played 68 games, he batted 338, 946 OPS. And then last year, 38 home runs, batting.
And it also add some youth to the team as well, even though the whole outfield is young. But
yeah, he's only 26.
26 years old in his prime, and all the other top players that they rely on their team besides Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott are all older, so he can add to that nucleus of Brandon Marsh, Luis Robert, and all those guys. So, I mean, that's definitely the right move to make.
Yeah, let's hope the Phillies can pull it off. But anyway, I know you have a question for this week's podcast. You wanted to.
Yeah, so we have a topic. So every week we're going to come up with a different topic that might not go with what's like current news in sports, but more so just a topic that we're going to talk about. And this week's topic is what is Dante?
I don't know who's watching this. Saw the fly that just flew behind me. This is the largest fly I have ever seen in my life. This thing is massive.
Is it numbered?
I don't know what you mean by that, but this is this flies on steroids. Anyway, okay, sorry, continue. Jesus.
Well, that's the topic. What's Dante looking at? Nah, but for this week's podcast, all our Philadelphia listeners out there, which Philadelphia team do you want to win a championship next the most? So Dante, we'll start off with you. Which team do you want to get over the hump the most? So let's break it down real quick. So we most recently in all the four major teams in Philadelphia, the Flyers lost in 2010 in the Stanley Cup to the Chicago Blackhawks. I think in 6 games from that sideways goal. So that was a nasty taste in the mouth. I'm not the biggest hockey guy, but I do watch the Flyers on occasion. So that probably won't be my answer, but the Flyers are definitely still mentioned in the 4 major teams of Philadelphia. So 2010 was the last time they made it to the championship and didn't get it done. The Sixers haven't made it to the championship since 2001. Dante, you were born in 1997 or 8?
7.
7. Yeah, I'm 1997 as well. So we're a couple months off. So 2001, we were both alive for, but it's been a long time.
I have no memory of it.
I don't have any recollection of that, but no, I do have
Yeah.
a big recollection of the Eagles losing the 2004 Super Bowl.
Yep.
Excuse
Bless
me.
you. Bless you.
I sneezed in
Bless
3s,
you.
so that was weird that only 2 came out. But the Eagles.
I don't know if you're just aware. You actually just quoted a TV show. Jesus Christ, this thing is huge, dude. Anyway, yeah, you just quoted the Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV show remake with Childish
What did I say?
Gambino. I sneeze in 3s. I would just go on YouTube at some point and look that up.
I feel like that's a common thing that
Smith.
people say, but yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, it was kind of poking fun of that.
But
Anyhow,
see, I already knew what you were about to say. I know all your transition words by now on the 50th podcast episode. But 2010, the Flyers lost. We had the Eagles when we were live. That's my first big sports. Being really upset with sports was the Eagles losing in 2004 the Super Bowl. They made it back in 2017, 2018, and won the Super Bowl. So we have one in our lifetime, which is great. And they lost in 2022, 2023. So that's still a nasty one. A 10 point lead at halftime. Jalen Hurts, outside of the fumble return for the touchdown, played the best game of his career, and we couldn't do anything with it. And it ended on a flag. So that one was tough. And the Phillies, 2008 World Series. I remember that. I remember going to the parade. Obviously went to the Eagles parade. 2009, they lose to the Yankees, which was a tough one, and it's just was really disappointing because it felt like a dynasty was being born, and they just couldn't get over the hump after that 2008, and then the Phillies losing in 2022. So 2022 was really rough for us Philadelphia sports fans. So that's just laying out the landscape of what's happened with the 4 major teams championship-wise in recent memory. So Dante, with that being in mind, because I feel like that information is very valid to be discussed. Because you could also think, the Flyers or the Sixers in our lifetime haven't given us a championship that we've seen them win. So that could be a main reason why you would pick one of those teams. But who would be the team that you would pick?
Titans.
And why is that?
Well, I'll tell you why. First of all, Flyers don't care. And as a matter of fact, I think
care if they won the championship, though.
A little bit. I don't know. It's not because I dislike the Flyers or anything. I just don't really care for hockey that much. So Flyers, And I think at this point, with the popularity of hockey, the way it's dipped, and a bit of a rising popularity in soccer, I think if you're going to mention the Flyers, you should mention the Union. Especially since the Union are a team that has been a perennial contender the past.
They also lost the championship too.
Yeah, they did. They did. So I think if you're going to mention the Flyers, you also should mention the Union, but I'm not going to pick them either. Sixers definitely would be cool. It would be great to see Embiid shut up all the doubters, all the haters. It would be great
If I
to.
don't even know how I would feel if the Sixers actually made it to the finals. That would be a whole nother level of angst, and just to see the team. I know, we know we're not going to see the Dallas Cowboys win a Super Bowl anytime soon,
No.
but just to see the Celtics up 2-0 in the series right now, and all the mistakes that were made in the past decade with the Sixers, and how the Celtics have capitalized almost at every opportunity that they possibly have, um, could have a opportunity, just
Yeah,
carved.
it would be great to see the Sixers win. The Eagles, it would be great to see Jalen Hurts get a ring. Definitely. But the Eagles did win recently in 2017. So if I have to have my pick out of just one team, Eagles, they're out. Brings me to the Phillies. A couple of reasons why I would prefer to see the Phillies win a title more than any other team. One, um, there's nothing better than Red October. There's just nothing better than it. And I've enjoyed it even more as an adult than I did as a child. As much as I enjoyed it as a child, I mean, don't get me wrong, I lived for it as a child, but as an adult, it's even better. And I've had so much fun the past two Red Octobers. To cap those off with a World Series victory would just be pure bliss. It would be phenomenal. I can't even explain how awesome it would be. And it would be great to relive, my childhood memory of the Phillies winning the World Series in '08. And the final reason I would prefer the Phillies to win it all is because I just think this team, this locker room, these guys, they get along so well. They're basically a brotherhood in that locker room. They're such an awesome group of dudes. I really want to see the Phillies win it for them. Like, I really want to see Harper win a ring. He really deserves it. I think it would be phenomenal. Oh, I thought I lost connection again. Jeez. But I think it would be awesome to see Harper win a ring. I think he deserves it more than anything.
I would love to see the Phillies win. And do you feel like, let me ask you this, do you feel like it's more engaging with the Phillies, like an MLB playoff run, because they play so many games and they play so often in the playoffs? There's like almost
I
playoff
think
baseball on every night, compared
I
to like
think
how like it's week to week with the NFL. You know what I mean? You only play
yeah,
times to get to the Super Bowl.
I think that's definitely part of it. That's what makes it more personable. I also think what makes it more personable is all the locker room celebrations, I think we really get a glimpse into what that locker room is like, what those guys are like. We get a real good glimpse at their personalities. After they clinch a playoff berth and they go in the locker room and they celebrate. Then they win the wild card round, they go in the locker room and celebrate. They win the NLDS, then they go in the locker room and celebrate, and so on and so on. And so, over the past 2 seasons, we've witnessed that a total of what, 7, 8 times. So you really do feel like you get to know the players more. You also get the interviews post game where somebody's being interviewed, and then Stott and Marsh come up from behind and pour the water on. You get to see those interactions. You get to see the interactions after somebody hits a home run, and then you'll see like Bryce Harper with like a different handshake for every single player. Do you see guys hanging out in the dugout during the game? Like, I do feel like, I think that is a great point. I think like with baseball, it's a lot more personable than the other sports. So you really get to know the players, and you want to see them um win a championship.
Yeah, I would love for the Phillies to win a championship, and I feel like it's not even like I have to wish for them to win a championship. The thing is about this conversation is the Flyers and the Sixers are probably so distant from a championship, and the Eagles and the Phillies are pretty close to actually being able to obtain that. You know what I mean? The Eagles came 2 years ago, that close to winning that Super Bowl, and that, I feel like that loss still really hasn't sunk into me, just because it was like that year was just so special and everything about it. Like, it will always go down as one of the best years in franchise history. And They overcame some injuries at the end of the regular season, and they just got into the playoffs and dominated, especially dominating the 49ers. Like, I felt like they had it in hand. And then obviously the Super Bowl went the way it did versus one of the best quarterbacks of all time at such a young age. But I always will have to lean towards the Eagles and wanting to see them win a championship. If the Eagles would have won 2022's championship or the Phillies would have won 2022, I would have vice versa, whatever the team is. I really want to see the Sixers win a championship really bad. I really want that
I
to
do
happen.
too.
But I don't want that more than the Eagles to win a Super Bowl, regardless of how long it's been since the Sixers have won a championship. It's been since 1983.
Oh,
So
so you're going Eagles.
yeah, I'm going with the Eagles. I just feel like
Okay.
I have a bad taste in my mouth from the last Super Bowl. I really like this team. I think
Okay.
it's special. I think they need to capitalize on the roster that they have. They have a crazy nucleus, especially of skill position players on offense right now in an offensive league. They have a guy that's getting doubted a lot in Jalen Hurts, and people are talking about from a couple years ago, oh, we need to trade for Russell Wilson and how that could have panned out if they would have done that. And he leads them to the Super Bowl, plays the best game of his life, like I said, and then just falls short at the end. The defense couldn't stop the Chiefs in the second half at all. And I don't think Mahomes didn't have an incompletion in the second half, was it?
Maybe.
It was
Maybe.
something along the lines of that, and it was just
I
I
tend
feel
to
like
block. I tend to block big losses out of my memory.
I mean, there was nothing like sitting down. I love the Phillies, and Game 6 of the World Series, I was rolling. We were together. We were out at Xfinity Live during the whole 2022 run. And it was phenomenal and special. And I love going out and doing like that. But like, I can't go out in public for the Super Bowl. Like if the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, you know what I mean? Like I got to be trapped in my room by myself, just locked in. Like it's just so nerve wracking. So I would always have to go to the Eagles just because football is my number one sport, and I just treat the Eagles as my favorite team. So out of all the Philadelphia teams, so
Yeah, I hear your point about the Phillies, where you think they have a pretty good shot at winning the World Series anyway. I don't, as well as things are going right now, I don't feel that confident in them winning the World Series just because of history. You know what I mean? The 2 years, the year they won the World Series and the year they made it back to the World Series in 2022, it was more so like a miracle run towards the end of the season. I feel like baseball oftentimes is about what team gets hot towards the end. And a lot of times the teams that just dominate the regular season don't really end up making it, and they fall victim to one of those teams that get really hot. And right now, I mean, the Phillies just dominating the regular season. It's rather reminiscent of
but the
2011.
one thing that
Especially.
does make me feel good is that they are hot right now, but they're also doing it without one of their best players. So it's not they're going to get a
True.
huge added boost back when they do get Trey Turner back. So that's
Yeah,
like
but the 2011 Phillies also traded for Hunter Pence at the deadline and still lost in the first round. I don't think this is a team that's going to lose in the first round or anything. I sure hope not, but um I don't know. I worry a bit, especially after what happened in 2011. Because, and like I was about to mention, I mean, the other thing that's very reminiscent of 2011 is how dominant the starting rotation is. And then how there's one weak link at the end of it. Just for an even tighter comparison, you can say Taiwan Walker is the 2024 Phillies Joe Blanton. But
I
hey,
feel like it's
maybe
hard to compare that like 2011 to today's game though, because you got to think about how much different the game is having the designated hitter. Like if your offense isn't going in 2011 and you're having to have your pitcher at bat every single time, you know what I mean? Like the Phillies are getting contributions from pretty much 1 through 9, and it's usually the top guys doing it and the top of the order doing it. And then when they don't step up, some random guy at the bottom of their order gets it done. So
well, yeah, like I mentioned, if they do pull off the trade for Luis Robert Jr., then there's not a single bad hitter on this team, not even a mediocre hitter on this team, in my opinion. I think everybody is an above average hitter in that situation. So if they can pull that trade off, that would make me feel even better. But like I said, there's nothing more I want to see than a Phillies World Series win. So and before we wrap things up today, I just want to deliver some breaking news. Not like major breaking news, but some breaking news. Dan Hurley, the head coach of UConn's basketball team, has turned down the Lakers' 6-year, $70 million offer to become the Lakers head coach. And instead, oh, wait, this is from 8 hours ago.
Yeah. This ain't breaking news. I was about to say,
It's
but
not
it is
breaking
news.
news at
It is
all.
news
But it
because
is news. It is
it
news.
is
It
news
is
for sure.
news.
He's going for the three-peat at UConn, so kudos to him for turning down that job. I don't know if he's ever going to get an opportunity to coach the Lakers ever again. Probably not. Sources, I think, said that he would rather be the New York Knicks coach, being from the East Coast. I think he is. So maybe if that job opens up, Tom Thibodeau, if he runs his players down into the dirt for a couple more years and the Knicks front office get fed up with him, maybe that happens. But yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting to see who's going to take the Lakers job. Maybe JJ Redick's probably locked into that job now. That was the rumors beforehand, and
Oh
them being
yeah, that's right.
a lot of heat. And JJ and obviously LeBron have the podcast together, so maybe that's a pairing that makes sense. But
Well,
LeBron doesn't
hey,
even know who's
hopefully
going to take that job.
LeBron will be out of LA and in Philly. So
Well, if
that'd
that
be
does that, our conversation, I mean, LeBron gives us the best chance to win a championship next year if you're the Sixers out of what's available and out there. And they still, even outside, everyone's talking about the top guy that they're going to get and who they're going to target just because that's what everybody sees Daryl Morey doing. But I think it's more important to who they're going to surround all these guys with because they have so much cap room, but you're going to spend it on one guy. And then how are you going to accommodate everything around these guys? Because we see the 3-star pairings don't work. Like it didn't work for the Suns this past season.
I don't think it's 3 stars don't work. I think it just has to be the proper mix of 3 guys, And I think LeBron James fits perfectly alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
Well, I'm talking about just like any of the big four guys that are being mentioned with Paul George, Jimmy Butler, any of those guys that are out there that they can possibly go after.
I think here's the thing. I think, with how weak of a free agent class this is, I think at least the good side of it is that it's all wings. And that is, what would fit best alongside the Sixers right now. I mean, if it was somebody like if it was a really good scoring guard, on the shorter end, somebody similar to Tyrese Maxey, that would be an example of somebody that wouldn't really fit well. But who also can't facilitate hypothetically. So the fact that everybody's a wing and that would be a good fit for the Sixers, I think at least that plays into the Sixers' advantage, despite it being a weak draft free agent class.
For sure, but I do think they're going to have to add somebody that's significant that can create for themselves, and really the only guys that can create for themselves are the top guys in the free agency class and the guys that you're going to have to pay big money for. So that's the issue. And they don't have like a year where they can kind of lay off and try. They don't have a high enough draft pick. I mean, maybe they can get lucky at 16 and get a wing that actually can make something happen out there. But to think that they're going to hit on another back end first round pick like they did with Tyrese Maxey's kind of, wishfully hoping,
Yeah. Well, that's about all the time we have tonight.
But you're missing on the 50th episode. You would have thought after 50 times that you would come prepared with your meatball of the week. But
I tried. I got nothing. Who's even a meatball this week? Nobody did anything dumb. I can't help it. I'm not going to force
your boy
it.
Darren Waller from Meatball of the Week last week ended up retiring. So, what are your thoughts on the Darren Waller retiring?
I think it's funny. I think it's very funny. But outside of thinking it's funny,
That just makes the Giants even worse too, and they just gave up so much for him, and then they ended up,
Yeah, I mean, but on the other note, I think anytime an NFL player retires young, it puts a little bit of a smile on my face just because they're walking away from such a dangerous sport while they can. I mean, we've seen what head injuries do to people. Antonio Brown. Crispin. So to see Darren Waller walk away, but I don't think that's why he walked away from the NFL at this point. I don't think it's because of head injuries. But
I think
even
he's walking
so,
away from the NFL because he truly thinks he's going to become a rapper. I think that's what.
I don't think that's it. I don't think that. I think he's just going through some shit right now, and he's just walking away from the game. Um, but yeah, the only other meatball of the week I can think of would be a guy who I'm not really even going to bring up this story on the podcast, but whoever's heard the story, there was a kick streamer. If you don't know what kick is, it's kind of like Twitch, but different. A kick streamer who got banned from the platform for doing something pretty bad. He did something pretty bad the other night. He's banned now and might be going to jail. Definitely should be going to jail. I don't even want to bring up what he did, what his name is, but if I have to pick a meatball of the week, that's all I got. So
Actually,
yeah,
the name because I didn't hear about that.
I forget his name. I don't know. I had never heard of him before. But after we end this, I'll give you the specifics. But yeah, since I can't come up with the meatball of the week, nobody did anything dumb in the world of sports.
How about
Streaming, I guess.
the video I sent you on Twitter the other day of the reporter thinking that she's interviewing Vince Young, and
I
it's
didn't
not
see that.
Vince Young in the golf course.
I don't even think I saw that.
I sent that to you on Twitter.
Oh, I didn't notice my Twitter DMs. Oh yeah, I'm just seeing this now. All right, well, I'll take a look at that when I get a chance. But yeah, no real meatball of the week this week. 50th
You're gonna have
episode.
to come up with something, or you're the
Oh
meatball
well,
by
there
default.
was no meatball. There was no meatball. There was not a single meatball to be found this week. Not even some brajol.
Your Medigon accent there. But thank you guys for tuning in this week for the 50th edition of the Paisan Sports podcast. And we will be back next week with more content for you guys. So we'll see you then.